Welcome, beautiful. I want to talk with you about, I actually forgot. I want to talk with you today about I'm back. I want to talk with you about you wanting to create that desire. There's something you want to create, something you want to bring to life in co-creation with the divine, with God, with the universe, because you know it's big. You know you're not gonna do that by yourself. It's gonna take time. So something that you want to make manifest, and it's just not showing up. You do everything, and it's just not showing up. And I want to talk with you about exactly that, because I know how important it is. And I claimed I recently claimed a next level of mine. And that next level is 100K sales revenue. So I got clear with the identity, clear about who it actually is. I connected with that Viktoria that is making 100K per month. I connected with her. My heart cracked wide open, because that's the truth. Every time your heart cracks wide open, you know it's the truth. And then at the same time, there's that fire, like that excitement, like of experiencing it. And then there's the fear kicking in, but how? And then the thoughts kicking in, like you're crazy. Anyway, you know it's the truth. So you claim it to be true. That's what I did recently. And I got very clear about who that 100K month Viktoria is. I got very clear about how she feels, how she thinks, and how she acts, because that's just part of the creation process, that you think, act, and feel differently. So you can't start thinking about her. You actually have to be her to then think, feel, and act as her. So that's what I did, and that's what I'm teaching. That's what I'm guiding you to do. To not think about it, wanting it, how nice it would be to be it. And that's what's happening a lot. That's why things are not shifting. But really being it, being the embodiment of it. Being plugged into her, being plugged into that version. No matter how big, no matter how crazy, no matter how unreasonable it is. But really being it. And the first step is you choosing it. You claiming it. That's the first step. The second step then is to be very, very clear, but not from an analytical perspective. Like really connecting with her. Like, who is she? How does she live? How does she feel? How does she think? How does she act? Like connecting with her. Not thinking about her, connecting with her. To then be her. And then just doing that day after day after day, until the moment happens where it's actually happening. And how long that moment takes depends upon how good you are being her. That's the only reason. You are that energetic match, and you are then, the moment you are that energetic match is the moment you are experiencing that which you want to experience. And it's the moment you are no longer craving to experience it, because you're it and you already experienced it. So it becomes very natural. This is a beautiful indicator that you actually changed, when it's very natural, when you're just her. So I was riding the wave. I was like plugged into her, like really, really, really plugged into her. And then what happened? There were a few moments where like the doubt, the fear like creeped in. Okay, dealing with it, like feeling it, shifting it, moving it, recalibrating again, like who is she connecting with her, feeling her. And then yesterday, what happened? Like that whole big stuff coming up again. All the doubt about who I am, about like how can I actually do that? It's impossible. Like the same old stories that I know so well. They just creeped in and became bigger and bigger and bigger and bigger. There were moments where I kind of like, you know, shifted it, not suppressed it, really shifted it. But then it just came back again. And then I'm like, what the heck? I thought I'm done with that. And that's what we love, thinking that we're done with it. But can we just get rid of that idea to be done with anything? To just surrender yourself to what shows up. You being clear with what it is that you want, you being clear about who it is that you are when you have what you want, and you being determined to show up as her every moment. And then what happens around you, as I just shared, like situations that are completely misaligned, the complete opposite. It's just energy that is actually ordering, just taking on a new order. In order to take on a new order, it's just coming up. So then what often happens is that we believe it's the truth and we go back to the old. And I want you to not believe it, to recognize it as not the truth. So this is actually what happens often. We are just then believing the old stuff again, and we're going back to the old. But then what matters is that you actually recognize it as not the truth. And let it be what it is. Accept it for what it is. And very often here comes the resistance, that we don't want that because we think we're done with it already. So then we stop fighting it, we stop shifting it, we stop like getting into action, we stop like we need to do something because exhausting. In the doing again. Like the old, like taking on the old identity that thinks that there's something wrong with it, with you. Something that needs to change right now, something that needs to shift, like it's, and what's happening, it's getting bigger and bigger and bigger and bigger and bigger and bigger. And you just back into that old identity. Thinking from it, being from it, acting from it, by wanting it to be away. So then I want you to ask yourself, when that stuff shows up, how does actually, like when you're connected to that new version, to the next level version, like how does she actually shows up in these kind of situations? So then last night I had a moment, a big moment. Yesterday was like one of these days where it was just like a little bit challenging, like really keeping myself in that state, keeping myself in that identity. I was just like there, and then I creeped out again there, and then I was just like so tired. I was just so annoyed. I was like, what the heck? Just show up, please, now. I want to experience you now. Then the impatience comes in, and it's no longer about us being it and enjoying it. And then I remembered that. How do I show up? And the way I showed up was, I just gonna cry. I just gonna let it flow through me. So I just cried and cried and cried and let that flow through me. I did not label it as something bad. I just recognized it at what was as what it is. Energy that wants to be moved. And I cried and I cried and I cried, and I thought I gonna die. It was painful. And I cried, and I held myself, knowing that I am her. So I was just surrendering to her, to what wanted to flow through me. I did not control it. And it kept on going, crying and crying and crying, and sadness and frustration and doubt and everything just flew through me. And then at one point I was like, okay, enough now, because I'm actually going right back into that old identity. There's that point where you got to recognize that, and you know when it's there, when it's just enough release, and now we're actually going over it to then actually step into the old. So I recognized it. I was like, okay, now time to actually reprogram myself. And I started listening to something that was really inspiring. I started listening to that interview of these powerful women doing the impossible, doing the limitless, and I'm like, yeah. And I started reprogramming myself with new information, with the truth. After I moved that energy, I kind of the energy was all stirred up, and what I did then, I was guiding it towards what I want it to move, to then move into matter. The matter that I want to experience. Like that 100K version of mine. And when I'm saying 100K, it's not about the 100K, it's not about the money. There's so much more related to that, and I really want you to grasp that for yourself as well. There is impact, there is power, there is passion. That's what all comes along with that. There is an immense growth related to that. It's not just, okay, I'm making 100K. It's not just about the number, not just about the money, it's about you. So I want you to claim whatever number you want to claim. Whatever feels exciting. Whatever feels like expanding. Whatever feels like, okay, whoa, it's scary at the same time. Anyway. So then last night I was like, oh my God, when is it over? I'm like, okay, it's over whenever it's over. Like letting go. Like feeling, crying. Okay. Then I reprogrammed myself with that interview. And then this morning I woke up like newborn, like wow, like fresh, released. I listened to that audiobook. I was just like enjoying my coffee and in bed, and just such a beautiful morning. And then I decided to sit down, to just take a moment to connect with gratitude. Closed my eyes, I turned some music on, and I started crying like crazy. I felt an immense amount of gratitude and of love. And I was just sitting there for 1 hour crying out of gratitude, out of love, anchoring that new identity that already experienced that which I was longing to experience. That was like the anchoring moment, being it right now. No need to be it anymore, because I'm it. So here you see the polarity, the duality. Last night, that intensity where I feel like I'm gonna die. It's so painful, like all the emotions that are coming up. The opening, cracking wide open, the crumbling, the falling apart, the vulnerability, being it all, not identifying with it, just being it from that next level version that I chose. And then this morning, wow, was that magic? All that gratitude, all that love flowing through me like for 1 hour. Wow. Without me having experienced that last night, I would not have experienced that this morning. So I really want you to open up for what is, but important, with your next level identity. Not from the state of the victim, from your next level identity, knowing exactly it's time to let it flow through you, holding yourself powerfully. And holding yourself, I was lying there, holding yourself powerfully does not look a certain way. I was lying there, down there, like a baby, like in the fetus position, like crying, like asking for help, please be with me. That is power, the vulnerability of being. But again, not like that there's something wrong with you, just like knowing that that's just part of the whole spectrum for you then to experience even more of the bliss, of the ekstase, of the orgasmic, of the limitless. What I'm guiding you to experience. Experiencing yourself limitless, but holding yourself in the duality, holding yourself in your power in every moment. And again, that looks very, very different. Sometimes it's being very, very vulnerable and just letting it flow through and crying like a baby. And other times it's just like crying out of gratitude and love and overwhelmed because you can't handle it, it's that big. It's everything. Every little thing is your opportunity, your choice to experience ekstase, to experience yourself in deep pleasure. And that's what I'm inviting you to do. And if you're ready, I'm inviting you to go on a journey with me, because I'm holding space for exactly that. To experience yourself in the limitless way, but not just one time. I want that to be your identity. I want you to really embody it, to really be it, so you can create anything you want, anytime you want. That's the journey.